you're building social capital. You're doing really, really meaningful work. You're starting to build relationships and starting to build community. You're starting to build the connections that are going to be what will get that community through as the rest of our systems collapse and deteriorate.
You're building security.
You're building security.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Are you ready to live a more free, healthy, and abundant life? How about just growing some of your own food so you feel like you have a little more control and power over your destiny? We all know the crazy prices going on at the supermarket. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm getting less food. I have less bags in my car when I drive home, and I'm spending literally a third more. Not to mention, the quality of our food is just completely garbage. So I don't know about you, but more than ever, I feel an urgency to be able to understand how to grow my own food, maybe at least a little bit. Now, look, I don't have a green thumb at all, but I'm going to be doing a deep dive in the next year on having a little bit of a home garden. I've learned you don't need a lot of space, you don't need a lot of skill, but you can do it. And guess what? I've got a great resource that will help you do that. My friends at Food Forest Abundance, they will help you create, no matter what your situation is. Maybe you just have a little quarter of an acre, a little plot of grass or some trees that gets a little bit of sun exposure. They can look at your property, and they can do this all remotely through Google satellites and all this stuff. It's just amazing what technology can do. And they can help advise you as to your unique ecosystem, what your soil is like, what grows best in your climate, how to have stuff all year round through the different seasons, what plants to grow, what things will thrive, what will not thrive. It's an amazing resource, and they fast track the process. So Food Forest Abundance, it's on my website, eStore. If you want to take it to the next level, maybe you want to consider hiring one of their designers to help take a look at your situation and advise you and hold your hand through the whole thing. This is what you can do. Make sure you use my coupon code FITAMYTV at checkout. You can save 5%. They can really help you out. And if you want to learn more about this whole thing with permaculture and food forest and liberating your lawn and getting more empowered and secure in your life with stuff that really matters, check out episode 84 with the one and only Jim Gale. And that was a fantastic episode. I promise you're going to learn a lot. So let me know what you think. Enjoy. Hey friends, I know you want to look and feel your best. I know I do. But how do you do that in today's busy day and age? Unfortunately, even if you exercise and eat right, it's just not enough anymore. I hear that all the time from friends and family that have this or that struggle or challenge. And they say, but I eat right, I exercise, I try to take care of myself. Yeah, I know, we all do. But you really need a little more. You really need a boost. You really need to know the things that work, the shortcuts, the little supplements and little helpers. Well, Masterpiece is one of my little helpers. I take this with me wherever I go. It is the best detoxification supplement I have found. Why? Because it removes heavy metals, including graphene oxide, plastics, and forever chemicals from your body. Masterpiece is unique because it contains zeolite nano-sized particles and pairs it with marine plaza nutrition. This is great stuff, everybody. And this formula goes through a high-level water structuring process, which allows it to further resonate, kind of like a strong crystal. It profoundly connects Masterpiece to holistic principles and the energy all around us. Hey, so look, I hope you try it because, yeah, I know you care, and I know you want to feel and look your best and be part of the solution, just like me. We all need a little help. So please check out Masterpiece. Consider adding just 2, 3, maybe 4 drops under your tongue first thing in the morning on an empty stomach to help your body clean out the pipes, detoxify, get rid of all that junk that's mucking up your brain and getting in the way of you being sharp and beautiful and your best. I know it's helped me. It's helped my dogs too. And you can find it over on my website, as well as all my other favorite personal products and coupon codes at amyfournier.com. Go to recommended products and have fun shopping. Welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite podcast with Amy Fournier. This show is about helping you to be healthy and fit in mind, body, and spirit, as well as harmonize your masculine and feminine energy, tap into your intuition, your true source of power, and awaken your authentic self. Today, my friend Marjory Wildcraft is back on the show. You probably, or at least I hope you heard her first appearance, episode 231. That is a must listen because we talk about securing the home front, securing your home, and what real security is. Well, you got to eat, right? You got to eat, you got to have clean water, you got to have shelter. These are basic needs of all human beings. And Marjory is the queen of backyard gardening, helping us kind of people that grew up without gardening and knowing anything about how to raise plants and how soil works and ecosystems and all that kind of stuff, helping people like us know how to grow our own food and how to do it in an apartment or on a very, very small piece of land or no land at all, just so we can feel a little more in control of our lives, not to mention healthier, because you know all the benefits of growing your own food, not only from the quality of food, but also by connecting with nature and the earth and feeling confident that, wow, look what I did. I grew this thing that I am now eating for dinner. It's an amazing feeling. And I wish that on every person. So do check out episode 231 with Marjory. But today she's back because we're talking about probably just as equally important of a topic. We're talking about creating community, finding your tribe. Where are my people? Are you my people? You're definitely my people if you subscribe, that's for sure. And we probably chat over on social media a little bit too. So how do we build community? Well, Marjory is once again the expert on that because, well, she did it. She's done it many times. She's moved and she's started over and she's created beautiful, heartfelt communities wherever she goes. So she's once again sharing her wisdom with us because it's all about relationships, right? You're going to love this episode. We are all about solutions. We're about finding common ground, supporting each other, creating this new, beautiful earth that we're all so fortunate enough to have the ability to create, and how to build real wealth, real social capital. Real health and wealth is connections, people you care about, meaningful relationships. This is the stuff that makes life worth living. And my friend Marjory Wildcraft is back to help us with that today. And by the way, you might want to subscribe if you really love Marjory as much as I do, because guess what? Yep, she's coming back one more time because she's going to share with us the 25 free things that you can do to improve your health. 25 free things. It's brilliant. They're simple, and trust me, they work. So that'll be coming out pretty soon as well. Okay, let's now find our community, find our people, find each other, and make it happen with Marjory Wildcraft. And welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Marjory, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Amy. It's a real delight to come back. I just love the title of your, Aphrodite, like, woo, we're calling in the big ones here.
Yeah, you got it, my friend. Well, that's really cool because that means it's really touching something in you that wants to awaken. It's like it, you know what I mean? It hit a nerve and you're like, oh yeah, sign me up for that, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
Totally.
you and me both. And this is so appropriate because, Aphrodite is the goddess of love and creativity, relationships, and you're in the business of creating. And what's more important but the love of Mother Nature, love of ourselves? How can we properly love ourselves if we don't feel good? And we need to eat right to feel good. So it's just such a natural connection to be growing your own food and knowing how to take care of yourself and love yourself, that is awakening Aphrodite, and surrounding your world with beauty, with nature and plants. I mean, this is the whole game, right?
Yeah. And today we're going to talk about extending that by building community. So, I mean, that is really where I feel the joy of life is good friends, family, people that you can count on, people that you know, people that you've worked together with, people that you trust, people that you can rely on. And how can you build those networks like right in your neighborhood? So I'm stoked. This is something I've done several times in my life in different places that I've lived. Very simple and effective techniques, and it's just wonderful actually when you have some really really good good people that you're connected with.
And on that Aphrodite note, like I said, she's the goddess of relationships. And what community, what you're talking about is building relationships. And, we all know love is what makes the world go round. It's what makes life worth living, right? So
Exactly.
community and tribe and having meaningful relationships are what make life worth living. It's like if we all thought about some of the favorite, most amazing, heartwarming events or things that have happened to us in our lives. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you weren't alone, right? It was a vacation or experience or something that there were other people there it was a shared experience. And
And usually it was something small, like
right.
somebody just said, hey, that was a good job, or just touched you, or said thank you, or opened a door or something. It's usually something unbelievably small that
So
you
true.
go, oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like it
yeah,
takes 2 extra seconds to
yeah,
just like open the door for the person or just make eye contact with someone and just say thank you or a little smile,
yeah,
something, right?
yeah. So I've been in the survival and preparedness industry as an industry. Anyway, I've been involved in this for
Now it is.
20,
Yep.
yeah, 20 years. And the biggest myth is that of the lone survivor. And I see this over and over again. I mean, actually, we did it. Everybody does it. When you first start thinking about preparing, you're like, I want to get as far away from other people as possible. I'm going to go out into the hills, out into whatever, the mountains, and hide. And actually, that is the worst. Actually the best chances of enjoying a major transition like we're knee deep into now is going to be with a small community. Is going to be in community. And so some of those big burly guys with the bandolier of bellets across the chest with
Yep.
their I say,
Camouflage.
like, who are your children going to marry? Who's going to celebrate birthdays with you? uh who are you going to give Christmas presents to? Who's going to help you when you cut your leg and you don't know how to sew it up? All that stuff, right? And it really does take community. We're tribal people at heart. I mean, we all think we're modern and we got computers and stuff like that, but we fundamentally are tribal. That is our human nature and ancestry. And until the nuclear family, which was created right around when the Industrial Revolution came along, we used to be, families were much more, you'd go to work and your kids would go with you, and your grandmother and everybody, was the everybody worked together. It was a whole thing. And then came the Industrial Revolution, and that went out the window. And I will tell you, as a mother of two, I think that the nuclear family is the most horrendous idea we've ever had. It was
Hmm.
terrible. They were really terrible. Yeah,
Well, we also know, to your point, if you look back at ancient cultures, they didn't have that. Everything was like the grandparents were living with the parents. There were multiple
yeah,
generations in one home, and it was because it was functional. Like you had the grandparents to watch the kids when mom was either with the infant or
yeah,
cooking or whatever. Like it was a whole system, and people had grew a lot of their own foods, like the victory gardens and stuff and the farms. And you needed a lot of kids. You needed hands on a farm is needed. You need a lot of people to do a lot of work. So they wanted big families, and there was a method to the madness.
yeah.
And their entertainment was each other at night. It was
Yeah.
community.
People singing or reading or,
Yeah.
creating things with whittling or crocheting or whatever, just some really basic fundamental skills. But let's talk about how to, start building community. And the first thing I want to say is you don't need hundreds of people. Really, I've found if you have a group of 5 core families that that you hang out with and that you spend time with and that you've built relationships with, that's actually really a lot. I used to kind of divide it in a couple of ways. So there was my core group of people that, it was 6 in the morning. I had just sliced my leg open. We're running to the hospital. Can you go take care of my kids so they don't wake up and see blood all over the place, and wonder where mom is? Those people. And then there was another group that was really close, but and I'd say maybe there was, another 10 families, and then there was a bunch of other people. But really, you really don't need a huge amount. And so how do you find those 5 families? And hopefully, like, close by, they don't actually have to be your neighbors, but within walking distance or with a mile or two. We lived in the one community I built in Red Rock, Texas. We all lived within, say, a 3 or 4 mile radius of each other, which is doable and very easy actually with cars and transportation, and would have been easily doable with bicycles or horseback. So, don't think you need to have hundreds of people and, you're going to go through some kind of LinkedIn procurement process,
Right, right. So what I'm hearing you say is you don't need a lot. It just takes like a good solid core. It's kind of like anything else, right, Marjorie? Like friends, like you can know a lot of people, you can have a lot of acquaintances, but most likely you're going to have one handful of really core people that's your center, and maybe 2 hands, if I guess if you're lucky. But other than that, for intimacy and real, like you don't really, you can have a lot of people, but that core has to be, it can be small. It
And
doesn't need to be big.
it comes down to 24 hours in a day. It really comes down to time, because how much really concentrated and big, and because, relationships come from continual repeated
Right.
interactions, right?
Right.
And how much time do you have to spend with a lot of people? So you really need to select a group and continually do things with them. And that's how you build the relationships and how you really get to know each other. Um, and it actually really is wonderful. And it doesn't take that long, but I just wanted to set that expectation in the beginning that you just don't need a lot. And so how do you select that 4 or 5 or 6 other families that you're going to really want to bond with and connect with? And so one of the easiest ways, so we moved, the story was we moved out into rural Texas and didn't know anybody. And if you've ever moved to a rural area and don't know anybody, you're just driving down the back roads with barbed wire all over the place and long driveways got to go who knows where, So it's not like, how do you meet, like, how do you meet people? So what I did was, actually I found a video, and that was a good video about gardening. And they had a local a community center, and I'll talk about how to pick the venue. Um, and what I would do is I would just say, hey, I made up some flyers and I put in a little $5 ad. Actually, sometimes you get it for free in the local, the Thrifty Nickel. Now it might be Facebook groups for your local area, but there was a general store and they had a bulletin board and I could hand it out at the post office and that kind of thing. There was only a few places where there was any business transacted in this little tiny town, and just said, hey, on Saturday night at 7 o'clock, I'm going to show this movie. It's for free, about gardening. And if you're interested in growing your own food, please show up. And let me talk about the venue for a minute. So, a lot of times there are churches that do have, of course, they have facilities. I did not want in particular to do it at the church because I wanted this to be more of a non-denominational thing. If you do have a particular religious bent and you really just want to be with that religion, that's fine. But for me, I wanted it to be more open and multidimensional, let's say that. Our community had a community center. It was, rented for $50 a night. There are also like the Veterans of Foreign Wars often will have a building. Sometimes your local fire department, the volunteer fire department. Another possibility is the school system, either the elementary or high schools, the cafeterias are available for rent, or the auditoriums are available for rent or free use. Sometimes libraries will have an extra room. The main point is you don't want it in your living room. And, I've met some people that did the same thing, but they had it at their house. And I said, that's actually a security risk. Because we're talking about preparing and being a prepper. You're also opening up your home to strangers. Like there's a lot of no-nos in all of that, right? And the first thing is you don't want to let people know what your preps are.
Yeah.
That's the first rule of prepping. And you don't want to open up your home. So you do want to find a neutral third space. And it's available. I promise you, if you start looking around, especially if you really want it, and suddenly you'll find it and it'll be there. And again, with the flyers and the ads, and I would really recommend offering, I'd say start out with a video or something that you really like, that is good, right? You don't want to try something. You don't want to, like, I think this might be good, let's show it. No, you want to know that it's really
Yeah.
good, right? And for me, I went down to the local library and they had a projector that I could borrow, and we just used a sheet from the bed, a white bed sheet, and made a screen and put it up. And yeah, and people came. And what's really good, I didn't do it, it's kind of hokey, but it's really good. I've started doing this at events for that I'm organizing here, was get a name tag that says, hello, my name is
Yeah.
whatever. And it is kind of hokey, but it is an icebreaker for people because
It works.
it works, right? Yeah. And so, you do a short introduction and you run the film. Um, the At the end, I always made sure that I had something to nibble on and something to drink. And it was usually really, really simple, like some organic corn chips and guacamole, one of those 5-gallon dispensers of water and one of maybe iced tea or something. And if people have a glass, all right, so I've got a quart-sized jar. But if you have like a paper cup or a Dixie cup or something, for whatever reason, you can hide behind that and you feel very safe,
You
right?
feel comfortable
You
holding
feel
a beverage.
comfortable holding a cup.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Marjory.
Yeah.
Here's my shield, right?
Yeah.
You know, and but it does, and if you let people know that there's something afterward, even at the beginning when you're introducing the movie, just say, hey, stay afterwards. We got some light refreshments. That also encourages people to stay, because what you're trying to do is meet people. If there's nothing there, then they'll just shuffle out and leave. But what you're really trying to do is build community. So you want to meet people and talk to them and what did you see out of the movie? Or do you have a garden? Or what, just making small talk and getting stuff going. Now, regarding kids, I had small kids when I was in Texas. So I always made sure that there was some kind of thing, and I'd put on the flyer, um, some supervised kids activity would be available. This is not necessarily childcare, but you know, and what it was actually, I'd get the movie going and then I'd run outside and play with the kids.
You were the entertainment.
We'd play hide and go seek and
That's
tag and all that.
great. That sounds like me. I'm
Yeah,
like, I want to go play with the kids. I don't want to sit around.
Well, I'd watch the movie a couple of times to make sure it was a good movie. So I
You've
knew,
seen it. Yeah.
yeah. And then when it was getting time, I was like, come on, kids, we got to go back in. And we'd go back in.
That's
And,
great.
later on, if we had a speak or if I needed to be there, you hire a local teenager for back then it was like $5 or $10. It's probably more like 20 now, but, you just have something available there. And
yeah,
we had a little bit of a yard, or sometimes if it was bad weather, it was like a covered patio or a second room that the kids could all hang out in. And it made it so that young families could come, right? Because,
yeah,
and since we had kids, we wanted to meet other people with kids, but also, if you've got kids and there's no childcare, then it's like one of the parents has to stay home and watch the kids, which means the probability of the other one going is going to plummet dramatically. Because, oh, you're getting to go to that movie about gardening and I'm going to stay here and watch the kid, right? So if you can make that available, that's great. here in Puerto Rico, I'm doing the same thing, but I don't have kids and it's not quite the same vibe. So um, it's, it's not necessary, but I do want to let you know that that was important at one time and is a good, especially, one of the great things you want to find is if you've got small kids, you want families with small kids, right? Because that will definitely bond you, is all the play dates and stuff that go with kids. So yeah, so just start hosting these events. Now, I would really recommend that you stay on a schedule. So here in Puerto Rico, it's the third Saturday of every month. We have a plant and seed swap party. It's from 9 to 11.
Where do you do it?
We originally did it at a bookstore because Tony was great.
So inside?
It was inside.
Okay.
Although we had tables and we kind of spilled out into the front. And then later on, we started a community garden at a place called Simple Greens, which is like a greens cafe. And they had a really nice covered open area. And we asked Natalie if we could use her space, and she was delighted, because any business really would love you to be there because you're bringing foot traffic, right? So Natalie has a coffee shop and salad bar. So we were bringing people who liked salad.
Yeah, perfect.
And Tony loved it. We saw people bought books, so most businesses are going to be happy to host you.
Heck
so if you
yeah.
want to do it at a business, that's also another option. Yeah, and do that pattern so it's easy for people to remember. And like, oh, it's the third Saturday of the month. That way, after a while, you don't even necessarily have to put out flyers or we didn't really have Facebook when I was doing this in Texas. Now that I'm here, that seems to be the way the community connects, is on like 10 different Facebook groups. So, I just put the announcement out through that. Yeah, and that way it's easy to remember. Since time is getting very, very short, I used to organize these about once a month, but since time is getting really, really short, I recommend that you do this every other week now. And what'll happen pretty quickly is you'll have a bunch of people coming and going. First of all, you'll get to know a lot of people in your community, and a lot of them will become your acquaintances, and they will also recognize you as the person who organized the event about the gardening. And there's going to be some automatic respect and understanding there. So you're building some, is it social capital within your community? But after a while, you'll start noticing the same families showing up over and over again, and you'll be going, oh, this is my tribe, right? So, and again, you'll maybe find your 4 or 5 families that you hang out a lot with just because they continually show up to your events. Let me talk a little bit about the kind of things that you can present. So a movie is great because you don't have to, it's easy, it's already been produced for you. By the way, if you want, use, like, I have a video at growhalf.com, and you can use that, or even at the webinar at amyfourier.com/grow. Show something that you've already vetted, and that can be good. You can do a few movies. Later on, I started getting to speakers. And so if I went somewhere and I heard a really good speaker, I'd say, hey, would you mind coming and talking to our groups? And you'd be surprised how many people speak, and they are not charging anything. They're just coming out because they genuinely want to help. And we had some really, really interesting speakers. We had people come out and talk about solar and solar panels, and we had people talking about alternative currencies and silver, and we had a whole tree planting class.
Wow.
I'm just tossing out some ideas to give you ideas.
Like useful education.
Yes, it's all on topics for things that are important for self-reliance for the community that you're building. So, try to keep it to topics like that. Like, you don't really want to have the, the 1963 Chevrolet convertible club, right? That's not,
and keep it kind of universally
applicable.
helpful. Right. Yeah. Not like, getting, we don't want to get into all the politics and that stuff. It's like who can't benefit from planting trees? Like, doesn't matter if you're red, blue, purple, green. It's like, doesn't matter. You're going to benefit from planting trees, or so.
Exactly. Yeah. That was actually another thing we ended up doing, was we ended up buying a whole bunch of trees in wholesale, and then bundling them up into like 5 different trees, an apple and a peach and a whatever, a pear, and then just selling it to the community with no profit on it in bundles like that. Because I was
Wow.
like, I want more fruit trees planted in my community,
Right.
right? The more people who have fruit trees growing in their yard, the stronger our entire community is going to be,
The
right?
whole
So
ecosystem and
the whole
everything, and the
ecosystem. Yep.
pollinators, and
Yeah.
it's a system that's so beautiful. Isn't that amazing how by giving we end up getting?
Another thing that's been hugely successful here that I love is every other month we have a plant and seed swap party.
Neat.
And so we just say, hey, come from, 9 to 11 at Simple Greens. And even if you don't have anything, it's totally fine. And people either grow plants that they give away, or they have seeds, or what, you never know what's going to show up. But it's always just a ton of fun, and it's amazing all the different plants. And what's been really wonderful is we've had a lot of the elders coming, and then they're like, yeah, this is Malagueta, and it's the Puerto Rican um, allspice, and we use
Wow.
it, we cook with it, and then it's a good medicine for if you have a chest cold, and they're
Wow.
they're teaching,
Sure.
right? And you're having coffee, and then here's a seedling, or here's the, whatever. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful interaction. And you're attracting all the people in your area who are producers. Very important distinction. So,
Mhm.
you're already attracting the people who like to grow, who are already growing, who have some skills in growing. So, a plant and seed swap party is super easy. Like, just just show up and tell people you've got a plant and seed swap party and see what they bring.
Can you define that for us greenies that don't know what you mean by plant seed and swap?
Yeah, so people just bring plants that they have extra of. Like, so maybe I grew out a whole bunch of tomato plants to put in my
Okay.
garden.
So garden
Usually
plants.
in gardening, you grow seedlings for way more than you need, because often something may happen to the first round, right? So you
Okay.
may lose them. So you want to have backup plants. So often you have a lot of extra plants. And so you just bring the extra plants and say, hey, here, I've got extra tomato plants. Does anybody want them? Or,
Okay.
here, there's
So
a
that's the
plant.
plant.
Yeah, people love propagating plants, and the people that love propagating will show up, and they will offer free plants. And then the seeds are,
Wow.
hey, I've got, let's see, here's a squash plant right here. Oh, the
Okay.
squash. Let me pull this off.
Yep. Oh, isn't that beautiful? She's gonna get
And
a
when I,
big squash.
when
Yep.
I,
Nice and round.
open this thing up to cook it, which is going to be here real soon,
Mm-hmm.
there are literally hundreds of seeds in here,
Yep.
literally
Okay.
hundreds.
All
And
right. Now we've all seen this, everybody, right? Your squash has seeds. All right, Marjorie, what do we do with those seeds?
yeah, so then,
Most people throw them away.
yeah, but you don't even have to get little packets, but I bought a whole bunch of little envelopes, um, and just label it,
Well, you got to
so
dry them. Okay, so you open up
yeah,
the squash, you cut
dry the
it, you,
seeds,
you lay them out like what, on a piece of paper for a few weeks and let them dry?
yeah, or a few days, it doesn't take that long, and then,
Days. Okay.
yeah, so like this is ringworm bush, May 2024, it came from my friend Maria Benedetti, and,
Look at that. Okay, she's
yeah,
showing a packet, like a little envelope, and she labeled it with the type of seed, the date, and who she got it from. Brilliant.
yeah, yeah,
And what do you
and
do with those? Then you would swap those, or you could
yeah,
plant
or
them.
just give them away to people, like, hey, this was so another friend of mine, the way I got these envelopes was another friend of mine bought, and I just bought like
That's
500
cool.
of them on eBay for like $8
Little
delivered.
envelopes.
And so a
Okay.
friend of mine had bought a bunch of these envelopes, and she was just handing out the envelopes. She said,
That
here,
has
take,
value.
take 20 envelopes, and then whenever you get any seeds, um, you know, so when I go to the farmer's market, I'm not just looking for food, I'm actually looking also for genetics. So I go to the farmer's
Oh,
market and there's these delightful cherry tomatoes. I'm talking to the farmer. Where did do you grow these locally? What variety is it? Da, 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 da. So I actually save the seeds from those tomatoes. I'm saving some for me, but it's really easy to save a lot more seeds than I need. And I put them in little packets to give to people. And people who are plant people, people who are gardening people, we love doing this.
yeah, this is getting me excited.
Yeah. So even if you aren't a plant person or a
Yeah,
growing, you can organize this and those people will show up and they will teach you all kinds of stuff. So, have a plant and seed swap party and just
plant
let them
and
know. And
seed swap party. Now I got it. Okay, this is so exciting. So the person who doesn't have plants or seeds, I guess you could just go to the market, buy some organic, and cut it open, and there's your seeds to bring to the party.
or you don't even have to seeds. I mean, we put on the flyer, even if you don't have seeds, bring a smile
Oh, I
and
love
share
it.
a smile.
Yeah, bring the
Yeah.
interest to want to learn and meet
Yeah.
people that are like-minded. You're creating the space, the opportunity. You're initiating this to just to have people come together. I mean, we all know, we hear it a million times a day now, that we're all starving for intimate connection and
Hmm.
our people, we all are. Although it's such a funny thing, Marjorie, because at the same time, I'm also hearing just as many people complain how busy they are and they want to come, but they can't because they're too busy. So everyone's kind of complaining that they don't have these real meaningful events and, spiritual connections and opportunity to, align with
Yeah.
people. But at the same time, when you tell them about something that's going on, oh, I'd love to, but I can't because I've got 4 million things to do. What do you think about that?
Well, what is your priority, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, is your priority to scroll through Facebook some more, or is it to
Yeah.
go to this event? And the people that do end up going to that event are going to be the people that you want to hang out with because you
Yeah.
can see that they're proactive and that they're engaged.
And they're not all talk, they show up.
They
They're
show up
taking action in their life to learn about seeds or meet people or yeah.
and they're producers or they
Mhm.
want to be producers. And
Yeah.
these are the people that are going to be critical to
Yeah.
your future. So these are the people that you want to meet. Now, I haven't done this specifically, but another group that might be really good to go start hanging out with are amateur radio enthusiasts
Oh, that's an
because
idea.
communications are super important. Or that might be somebody to have come be a speaker if you can find one that's good. I got to tell you, some of those guys are so engineering,
Oh, yeah.
but it's actually fairly easy to get a technician's license. And one of the things that this community we're loosely trying to figure out is how to create communications networks that are not a part of
Nice.
the cellular telephone stuff
That's
or the
critical.
satellite stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
And there's all kinds of technology coming out now that will enable us to build mesh networks.
Ooh,
Um, and where we'll be able to all communicate with each other in our own distributed, decentralized, basically a telephone network. So there's this new technology coming. Right now, it's a little bit, you got to be a little bit geeky. Um, but that's, if you know some of them, you might just start inviting those guys to these events. Another group of people that would be good to invite, if you know, are the volunteer firefighters.
hmm.
If that's something that's in your area, because those are people that are volunteers, they are committed to the community in a way, they're volunteer firefighters. That
Yep.
is a commitment to the community.
To
Those are,
serve.
yes, to serve. And those are
Mhm.
people you definitely, want to know. So
That's
those
good.
might be people to, invite, or have them talk. Like one time we did a talk, Texas, famous for wildfires. So we actually had a couple of talks on how to prepare your homestead to be fireproof. And there's a
Ooh.
lot of things you can do, like, in dry season, keep the grass short, make sure you trim up your trees above 6 feet high so the branches aren't hanging down, clear things around
Hmm.
your house. There's a lot of real basic tips, and you can get somebody to speak on that.
Mhm.
And again, everything you can do to strengthen your community strengthens your community. So,
Yeah.
um, rainwater collection systems,
Mhm.
you'll be surprised who in your neighborhood knows how to do that? And there was one woman, we found somebody who was really good. Actually, it was my husband who was really good at building these. And we created a little workshop at this one woman's house, and we actually built one for her, and we showed
Wow.
people how to do it. So there's lots and lots of, again, keep it non-political, really, just avoid that. Honestly, when you're hungry, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or Republican. And honestly, that whole thing is a circus. It really is.
Yep.
Trump is just as much an actor with puppet strings as Biden, as all of them. We really have to get rid of that entire system. That's what our next years are going to be about. But don't bring politics into it, because let's not create conflict. We're working on creating harmony. And that's another reason why I also kept it non-denominational. This is definitely a spiritual war that we're involved in, but it doesn't have to be a religious war. So, let's focus on solutions and on common ground. So those are some of the ideas of the topics we had. Again, try to keep it on a regular thing. And after a while, like I said, you'll start to meet, and regularly, people will show up. And so, like, after a while, for example, the Costell family kept coming over, and they had 2 kids that were about our age. And I was like, hey, Hermes and Maureen, why don't you guys come over to the house sometime and let's have dinner? So then we started meeting a little more personally. Or Carrie and Brandon, we went over to their house and had dinner, and then they came over to our place. And you start getting a little bit more intimate as you start feeling comfortable with people. And when you've kind of got that, and really, honestly, it does not take that long, really, like maybe after 6 or some interactions, you start to know right away. I mean, some of those events, there were people I was clearly not wanting in my community. Like, thank you for showing up. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Like, you are a little too weird. I can handle weird, but you are on another scale. So, I mean, right.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I would say is also be really, really open-minded about, so Beth and, oh, dang it. Well, Alan was her husband, and they were always late. Always. Now, they did have a small child, but that was also, they were just always late. So I would always tell them the event started an hour before it did.
An hour. Wow.
Yeah. And then they would always still be late. And,
Oh, wow.
but, I mean, once you learn
Yeah.
that about them, then you know that about them. And the really great thing, Alan was unbelievable with the kids. He was also unbelievable with trimming trees and taking care of, he could climb trees and cut branches and do things to trees that needed to be done. Just an amazing woodsman, right? So you're like, okay, you're always late, but you're an amazing woodsman. I got this.
And isn't that how life is? Is it a deal breaker? Can you live with the thing that's driving you nuts? And because we all have our shortcomings, right?
We all do, and so you'll learn that about them. You'll learn that about these people that are in your community, and they're not all going to be perfect. You are not perfect.
Of course.
The Marjory, she's always organizing and controlling everything. I'm sure they said that about me, right? Yeah, I don't know, but
see, I would think most people are like, good, thank you for putting in the time and effort so we can just show up.
yeah, that actually happened a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I look at it. Like, thank you.
Yeah.
You did all the heavy lifting.
Yeah, you'll find out all kinds of stuff. And then when you kind of start getting your group together, then you can take it to the next level of like organizing work parties. One young couple, they were actually building these really interesting concrete domes, and they didn't have a kitchen. And so we all decided to have a work party to help them build a little outdoor kitchen.
Wow.
And one thing I really learned with that was real important was make sure that everybody at a work party has work. So the construction work, which all the women were more than capable of doing, but since all the guys showed up, they all went right at it with their drills and their saws and stuff. And the women, once we had kind of taken care of food prep and watching the kids, then we didn't really have anything to do. And yeah, it really is true. Idle hands make the devil's workshop. So make sure with whatever event you have that everybody has some meaningful work to do. So, but you'll discover that also.
Plus, they'll feel less uncomfortable. It's like kind of just sitting around and like, especially if you don't know people, it's like people kind of like to be a little bit busy or engaged,
Well, you wanna work, you
Yeah,
came there,
that's
it's
what
a
you're there
work
for.
party.
Yep.
You wanna work, yeah.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
we did lots of wonderful things. Um, Another really great model, which is just, gonna be a little bit higher up once you start getting a little tighter, maybe when your community is grown, is I believe the best model for agriculture is everybody having their own, gardens and chickens and maybe rabbits or a small orchard or something like that. They're having their own personal food supply. But then the calorie crops are actually best grown with a group of people.
Oh.
Calorie crops like potatoes or corn
Hmm.
or beans, generally, they need many hands for a short burst of work.
Okay.
So, you know, weeding and planting and clearing the field. That needs a lot of hands to get a bunch of work done. And then planting, right? And then this would be at somebody's property, and then we'd set up irrigation and they'd irrigate it. And then we need many hands to come in a couple of weeks later to go through and do weeding, right? And then many hands later, maybe to do another weeding or apply fertilizer. And then when it comes harvest time, it takes many hands. So the calorie crops, which are generally grown on a larger scale, often require big bursts of a lot of labor all at once, and then periods of not much activity. And so they're really best grown in a group. And then when you harvest it all, you divide it up, appropriately. And somebody in your group is probably going to have the land to do it. You may not, but somebody will.
Mhm.
So I think that calorie crops are best done grown by a collective of families, and those would be your staples. And whereas you're
Mhm.
you're kind of growing the other things in your own backyard. So there are some ideas of where you can take this, and of course, eventually you're doing this and it doesn't require money at all. Here's eggs, or here's goat meat, or here's vegetables, or you're starting to trade and help each other, and you're creating this whole gifting economy, and you're drifting more and more and more off away from the systems.
But what happens if the room requires rent?
The I often like the community center did. It required like $50 and for the night. And I would just, pass around a cup and say, could you contribute? We'll just say, hey people, it costs this. And I
Okay.
spent, back then it would be like $20 on the chips and salsa and whatever. Honestly, I would just often, the costs were not that high, and the value of creating community is so worth it. It's community service. It's
Mhm.
building community, and again, making acquaintances with people and building social capital. I was totally happy to cover the cost for it. And people would kick in and pay for it, and they would help out or not.
Sure.
It didn't matter to me because the work is so important. You know what and if you really don't have any money, I'm sure if you ask people for help,
Mhm.
you can do it. And in fact, a lot of those places you say, could I get this for free, or could I mow your lawn in exchange for,
Mhm.
getting this
Or we'll
community
bring you
center?
some seeds.
Or bring you some seeds, or we'll
Give you
plant
some
trees
plants.
for
Yeah,
you, or,
sure. Barter.
whatever. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
ooh, another thing that we had that
Yeah.
was so fun was we had a barter and trade blanket, which was just amazing. Cause
Such a
I
great
mean,
idea.
some of these families I had known for years, and I had no idea some of the skills they were talking about that they had to trade. So, you will be surprised what some of your neighbors know how to do, or have,
So
or.
how would you advertise for that? I love the idea of like a barter party. Like everyone's got something they can barter or a skill or something. Like how do you do that? Get that
Yeah,
going.
well, the mechanics of it was, so you would just have a space where it's gonna be, and then you
Yep.
set the time. And we would actually just lay out a blanket, and we kinda had a queue, and we'd say, "Who wants to go first?" And the first person would come up and they would lay their thing on the blanket. And, then anybody who wanted to barter for it could bring something that they wanted and put it on the blanket to show you. So there'd be 3 or 4 people that would lay something on the blanket, and then whoever had put the item up, could say whether they liked it or not, or could ask questions about it. Like, it was amazing what some people would put on the blanket, and "What is that?" And then, "Oh, well, this is a specialized knife that'll help you, you know, cut peaches really easily, and you're like, holy cow, I want that, And we used to also say frog backs are also trade items, which is, U.S. Federal Reserve notes. So you could just lay money out there if you wanted it. And then once that transaction had happened, the next person who was in queue to trade that had something you want to trade would lay it out on the blanket. So you have somebody kind of monitoring it.
Okay.
If it wasn't you, you find there's always somebody in your community, usually a woman, who's pretty good at making sure the kids, that's pretty good at, getting the event started, calling everybody to attention, and doing all that stuff. And a barter and trade blanket, and it's so fun, and you learn so much, and
that's so neat.
You're trading without money. Generally, there could be money involved, but you're trading
the way it used to be.
Yeah.
That's how people bartering was what, built our whole nation, really.
Yeah. Actually, as I'm thinking about it now, I should start a barter and trade blanket on the off months when we're not doing a seed and plant swap party, and just see what shows up.
I love that. So has there ever been, do you have any advice for like any kind of squabbling problems? Because let's say there's a pricing disagreement, like this guy, your tomato cutter guy thinks his knife is worth this much money, but this person thinks it's worth this much and doesn't want to pay it, or even the seed and planting swap, like someone who's got let's just say like a basic tomato plant wants to trade it for a very rare plant, so the rare plant has a much higher value, and they're squabbling that, well, my plant's worth a lot more than yours, so you should really give me 3 plants for this 1 plant. Or, has that happened, and how do you recommend deal with it?
Sure. For the plant and seed swap party, we make it clear that what you're bringing, you're giving away. It doesn't matter its value. You're giving it away. I actually grow plants to give away because I want to see them grown. And many people come and bring plants that they just want to give away, and they bring seeds that they just want to share. So the plant and seed swap party is just totally a gifting economy experience. Now with the barter and trade, the trade blanket, it's the person who had the item that, maybe the person put the knife down on the blanket, and then somebody put a vase out there, and somebody put a book about permaculture out there, and somebody put a wooden bowl out there, and the guy with the knife would just look at them and decide. And if he didn't want any of them, he'd say, I'm going to decline. And if he really maybe he wanted that bowl, he would go over and take the bowl and hand the person the knife, and it's over. There's no squabbling. It's just.
I see. All right. So let me get this straight. You put a blanket down, everyone's in the room, everyone's got their thing, and one at a time, a person will go put their barter item on the blanket, and then anyone else who wants it has an opportunity to step up and put their item to trade, and then the guy that owns the item initially can choose which one.
Yeah.
That's that simple. And how do you advertise something like that? Like, hey,
well, I would recommend you don't do a trade blanket until after you've done a few of the others, like some movies or speakers or something, to where you kind of got some people that have some familiarity with each other.
Right. Yeah.
Because
how do you do we're having a blanket trade party? Like, what?
But it was so fun. We did several of them. It was so fun. Get a group that's starting to get familiar with each other. So you kind of got a core group there. And if other people then join in, it's fine, but you've kind of got a really good stabilizing force. And it really is simple. It really is just a simple mechanism that's been done throughout history. Really? I mean, this is a basic thing. I mean, I learned this actually at a primitive skills gathering where they practiced things from the Paleolithic era. I mean, humans have been doing this forever. You lay the item down, and other people lay down their items that they feel as they would trade for it, and the person who owns the thing either trades or doesn't. And it's that simple.
I love it.
It's really, really interesting, the items that show up, or what you think something's worth and what other people think. It's really interesting.
But it doesn't turn into kind of like a yard sale though, right? Like someone brings their old beat up crib or whatever, they want to get rid of the crap in their house. Like, does that happen? Like, cause I'm thinking like,
that does happen. But if you put a piece of junk up there and nobody wants it, nobody will put anything to trade. And then you're like, okay, you're not having trade next,
Yep. It takes care of itself.
It takes care of itself.
All right.
Yeah.
So both of these type of events though, Marjory, let's back up a little bit. How do we actually reach the people to invite them?
So yeah, so flyers, I make up a simple one-page flyer. And again, wherever there's still bulletin boards left, like at
Yeah.
the post office, that's where a lot of
Okay.
people go.
Post office.
We had a
Okay.
general store, we could put it there. Again, back in the day, I would advertise like in the Thrifty Nickel, right?
Okay.
Let it be known. Now, it's more like almost everybody has a friends of
Right.
Rincon or friends
Social
of
media.
whatever, social media. And then, just if you do know some people, word of mouth, the cashier behind the counter at the gas station, hand her a
Yeah.
flyer, or the librarian, or just do your best to get the word out. It will be a little bit of work. But again, you're building social capital. You're doing really, really meaningful work. You're starting to build relationships and starting to build community. You're starting to build the connections that are going to be what will get that community through as the rest of our systems collapse and
You're building
deteriorate.
security.
You're building security. So, if it does cost a little bit of money, I'm fine with that. That's an investment, right? Or if
Yep.
it takes a little bit of time, I was going to the post office anyway,
Yep.
I was going to the gas station anyway. I was going to pick my kids up at school, and I can put this on the door or whatever anyway, or whatever you're doing, wherever you're going often, or you meet somebody. And I just printed out a bunch of flyers and carried them around or put them wherever I could, and did things like that. And you'll
Yep.
you'll find. And then again, if you've got that schedule set up and you're like, hey, we do something the third
Yeah.
Saturday of every month or whatever it is, then it starts to become a thing. And so, if sometimes you only have a few people there, then you get to know a few people real well.
Yep.
I
And
did,
it'll grow.
yeah, we did one event, and this was a paid event, which was emergency medicine.
Oh.
And the community center could only hold 100 people, and we were packed at 100 people.
Wow.
And I had like 200 people that wanted to take that thing. I mean, people were crying, and I had to turn them
Really?
down.
Wow.
But, and then we had other events where, we only had 5 or 6 people show up. So, but again, also try to hand them out to groups that might already be preparedness oriented. Like I said,
Yeah.
the volunteer firefighters, or the amateur radio guys, or if if you've know about some of these online prepper communities, and just put it up on those bulletin boards there and say, hey, this is going on. Um, and that, again, that's why you want that neutral third party space, right? You don't want this in your living room.
Right.
Yeah, because it's great to interact with them and meet them there, and then have that be the end of the relationship if you want it to end there. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right. So, on that note, you are such a high profile pioneer. You're really the female face of, growing backyard production and agriculture. Do you worry about your security? Because, you were mentioning, and the rule number one of prepping is you don't really want people to know what you're prepping. I mean, that's the whole thing, because you're
I
going to be a
know,
target
right?
when. So tell me how you resolve that with yourself, Marjorie, because you're out there, and then you're the one who's running these events in Puerto Rico. So obviously people can put two and two together and think, well, she's probably got stuff at her house, because I think about that too. I mean, I don't have a lot,
Yep.
but
Yep. I know, right? I'm out
when it
there,
hits
like, buy
right.
silver, buy food, and yeah.
Yeah, me too. And but
Yeah.
when it
Yeah.
hits the fan, and it's going to hit the fan, people are going to remember who was talking about, oh, she's got a garden, and next thing you know, they're at your doorstep. So how do you resolve that?
Well, that's actually part of why I'm building community,
Oh, good. Okay.
because that's also your defense. And I am well armed.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't ever want to do that. I'm also
Right.
prepared to
Me
help as
too.
many people as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really prepared to help, and I've always been about helping, and people know that about me. And yeah, it's going to get really, really dicey here, and I don't know how that's going to go. And I am putting myself to some extent out there like that.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I'm choosing to do, because I feel it's very important. And I really trust in God that by creating community, by creating goodwill, um, that that will actually create the energetic barrier to things that are bad that could potentially happen. So is that true or not? I don't know, but that's what I'm living by. And that's also another reason why if for people who are watching that are not like you and I with the large followings and
Mhm.
all the stuff out there publicly, if you're hosting these events, people don't know what you have, right?
No.
You're just putting a movie up,
Right.
so most people are going to be pretty safe doing this. And that's, again, I'm stressing, do this in a neutral third party location. So that way
Mhm.
you can have some isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do know that, and maybe, I mean, would the government maybe target me when they decide that they're going to round up food or whatever? And I haven't totally decided how I'm going to respond to that.
Mhm.
But for the most part, for individuals that come up, I'm absolutely going to do what I can to help them. And they
Right.
know that. That's all that I've ever done for them. And that's what will happen.
Sounds very similar to me. So tell us about you moved from Texas to Florida, Puerto Rico. What did you do to build your community? You used to start all over again because you had quite
Yes.
the community in Texas. Can you share with us literally what Marjory did?
Yeah, that's just everything that I've been
What you
talking
just
about.
said.
Yeah,
Yep.
just exactly what I did. I started printing out flyers, and like I said, we started at the bookstore. Tony, he's great.
Okay.
He loved the foot traffic. He was so
Yeah.
disappointed when we moved to Simple Greens, and just everything that I'm outlining here.
Okay.
The plant
Perfect.
plant and seed swap parties,
Okay.
showing videos, having speakers, everything that I'm talking about here. I did live in Colorado for a while, and I was in this wonderful little mountain town there, and they had enough going on. I didn't need to organize community, which was wonderful. Like,
Yep.
yes, this is already a community that's built, so they didn't need me there for that.
Nice.
And that was wonderful. I had to choose, I felt, between Colorado and Puerto Rico, and it was a very tough decision. I love that little mountain town.
So different. So why'd you choose Puerto Rico? What was it about Puerto Rico?
Chocolate grows on trees.
Literally.
Literally, and
Oh my God.
I love chocolate. I've always wanted to learn Spanish, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. God, we're so
men,
much alike.
yeah,
Everything you're saying, I'm like, that's like me too. Yep.
Latino men like to dance and sing.
Yep.
The Puerto Ricans love to sing and dance. They're
Yep.
way
Yep.
more
Yep.
like that. Yeah, and food, I mean, you can grow year round. So for example, 4 months ago, I started with seeds to grow these trees. They're called green bean trees. They're literally trees. And now they're already 6 feet tall. Like, the growth rates here are just
Wow.
phenomenal. So if you like to grow things, like, this is heaven on earth, really.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Well, I got to say, I mean, you are just the epitome of a healthy person, a healthy woman. I mean, I'm hoping everybody goes to YouTube, Awakening Aphrodite podcast, because to see Marjory, how beautiful she is. I mean, you're just a picture of health. You're just glowing, radiate. And I know you probably eat, what, 90% of your own grown food, but it's like you truly are a testament to beauty from the inside out.
Oh, thank you.
Being truly healthy is so beautiful. Like you're radiant
Oh, thank you.
in your
Yeah.
skin and just everything about you. Not to mention, I mean, what's really blowing my mind, Marjorie, and then there's a little bit of a tangent, but is just how people's minds aren't really working right. And,
Yeah.
and how can your mind work right when your cells are starving for what they need to run?
Hmm.
So what I'm really noticing, like, even in myself a little bit too, like I
Yeah.
have to really, because all the stuff that's being thrown at us, so I gotta really dial it in even more. And then of course, as you get older, even more, you got less margin of error. So it's important, more important than ever, but you are living testimony to it working.
Yeah, I do. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's really kind. Yeah, I also work at it. I'm
Yeah.
noticing there's so many distractions. Now,
Yeah.
God forbid I get on YouTube. And I
Right.
come out 2 hours later, like,
Right.
oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yep.
and it's intentional, I believe, so you really
Yes.
have to stay
Yes.
focused.
Hmm.
And the food is just horrendous, and
Yep.
it's designed And then, oh, I just pray for those people who took the shots and the jabs and the boosters and all that, and they're not functioning well. They're still going to their jobs and they think they're doing well and they're not doing well. And we are in collapse. There's all kinds of things breaking. There's all kind of little like, oh, that's not working today, or, this just malfunctioned, or there's all you can see it all around that we are in collapse, and it's accelerating. And it is hard to stay focused. I will say that growing food will help you in every possible way. It'll help your health. The process of growing food is actually healthier than the actual products you create. But it'll help you emotionally, because you will not be concerned about stores closing, or worrying about eating, or being dependent on a system that is clearly toxic and dysfunctional.
And it builds your confidence, like your self-esteem, like you did this, and it connects you to Mother Nature and just the creative cycle. I mean, so many benefits.
Yeah. So I have a free webinar for everybody. I've spent 20 years teaching people how to grow food, and I've cherry-picked the 3 easiest and simplest and fastest ways for you to grow a lot of food very, very quickly. And I put it into a webinar, and I think we've got that at Aphrodite Awakening. Oh, no,
I think
Amy
it's
Fournier.
amyfournier.com/grow. Is that right? It'll be in the show notes, everybody. And I already have the webinar, and it's fantastic.
It'll teach you how to grow food, and it'll empower you. And hopefully I got a few jokes in there that'll make you laugh a little bit.
And you're just so practical. Like I said on your first appearance, like I mentioned in the intro, episode 231, your first appearance on Awakening Aphrodite, where we talked about growing your own food in more detail. But one of the things I've always loved about you is you get right to it. You're just so practical, and you realize that we're not all coming into this knowing what we're talking about. In fact, you didn't either. You were an engineer, right? Like you're all self-taught too, but I just love that. And the people, the quality of the instructors you have. Like I'm right now in the antibiotics one, a natural antibiotics
with Doug Simons. Yeah.
Oh my God, this guy. He's amazing. I mean, guys, she pulls in the people. I mean, like this really, the high quality, world class. Can't say enough about it. That'll be in the show notes, everybody. And we really hope you check it out, because like Marjory and I are saying, this is what it comes down to. I mean, we have to be healthy. The best defense is a good offense. And to be healthy, I mean, it's about the terrain, right? You don't want to create the environment that disease and pathogens and all that can proliferate and function. Like we want to stay strong. We want our brains to work. We want our bodies to be strong. And it all starts with food and water. It all starts with food and water and community. Having support, meaningful connections, no lone wolves, like you said in the beginning of the show. We know we need other people, and it makes it a heck of a lot more enjoyable, doesn't it?
It sure does. I mean, really, as we talked in the beginning, it's just the little things. It's, somebody giving you a birthday card, or or an extra dozen eggs. Hey, can you use this? Or, just small things. My neighbor actually here, I don't speak, he's Puerto Rican Spanish. Is like, I don't know why I came to Puerto Rico to learn Spanish. It's horrible, but he,
well, you probably are.
I am learning something anyway. He hands me a big shuck of bananas, because he's got a bunch of banana trees, and
nice.
When I have extra tomatoes, I give him a bunch of, and we don't even speak much of each other, but
you don't need to.
You don't need to. Yeah,
food is universal. It's like a smile.
It totally is, so we just give each other things all the time, and over the fence. Awesome. And so,
and it's goodwill,
Yeah.
I mean, he might not know even your name, but he knows, oh, she's a nice lady.
Exactly.
And if you need something, you got somebody there, and I love it. So, Marjorie, any final thoughts on all that?
Well, we are at war, and it's a spiritual war. And it is humans fighting for humanity. This thing is way bigger. And I'm sure you've had many talk about it, that there's a global cult that we hopefully will be able to eradicate and liberate humanity. We cannot do it on an empty stomach. So please learn to grow food. It'll be the best thing you've ever done anyway. You're going to love it. And we need you to. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me back on, Amy. I really appreciate
This
it.
has
Yeah.
been such a service to all of us, Marjory. Thank you for sharing your experience and your practical wisdom with all of us. And it's very true. You know, we can't do it on an empty stomach or an empty brain. You know, we need all hands on deck. Everybody that listens to this show is a doer and believes in the higher principles of things and values and really saving ourselves and this planet. So we all need to be functioning like warriors at our best. So that's how we do it. So check out that link, everybody. Please check out all of Marjory's amazing Grow Network Academy. You name it, she's got it on raising rabbits, chickens, essential oils, natural antibiotics, herb gardens. I mean, there's just canning. I mean, every topic you could imagine, and it's all at the beginner level, which I know I appreciate.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's years and years of accumulating just really focused step-by-step info.
Well, if there's a heaven, there's a spot for you there, because you
thank
sure
you.
have provided a tremendous service to humanity through all your work, you know. So thank you, Marjory. Okay, everybody, do check out episode 231 for more on growing in food in particular, and more on Marjory's background as well. And Marjory, thanks again. We'll see you next time, everybody. Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's AMYFOURNIER.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com. and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.